The atmospheric rivers. You may not know much about them, but I have a feeling that you are going to
learn something
now. Thanks to meteorologist Jacob Morse. Take it away, Jacob.
We've seen them, heard about them over the past month, through the end of December, throughout January so far. They've been slamming the West Coast, specifically California, with a lot of moisture, flooding, mountain snow. This is a satellite loop from January 11th. You can see that plume of moisture, all the cloud cover and the rain and snow associated with it slamming into California. First term that we'll go over is bomb cyclone. You can hear this sometimes with these coastal storms impacting the West Coast. It's just a rapidly intensifying system with a 24 millibar pressure drop. That's what we use to measure atmospheric pressure in at least 24 hours. So it just means that it's a really rapidly intensifying area of low pressure that is coming across the Pacific Ocean in this case and bringing California a lot of moisture. Here's a loop from January 10th and 11th. There was a series of 9 atmospheric rivers by some people's counts that have impacted the West Coast over a 3-week period, bringing a lot of moisture to the West Coast, a lot of the flooding and mountain snow. You could see each one of these spinning up in the Pacific Ocean, and that plume of moisture, a fire hose, if you will, coming right into the West Coast. And as the water vapor condenses over land, it brings a lot of rain and a lot of mountain snow, and that's why we've seen all of these impacts. A view on our satellites that we can use to see all this water vapor is called water vapor satellite imagery. You could see that fire hose, all of that moisture from the Pacific Ocean coming up and going right into the west coast of California. That funneling of the moisture is what's dubbed an atmospheric river, and it delivers copious amounts of moisture to the west coast. So we'll go even higher in the atmosphere, up to where planes fly, and look at the jet stream from a few examples over the past couple of weeks over the Pacific Ocean. You could see how long, straight, and fast that jet stream has been across the Pacific Ocean, directing all of that energy right into the west coast of California. Going even farther west, here's Asia, China, all of that wind energy pushing these storms right over the Pacific Ocean, gaining all that moisture from the Pacific, drawing it up from the ocean, and then pushing it into California. So that has led to the wettest 22-day period since all the way back in 1862 in downtown San Francisco. In Santa Cruz County, which is just west of San Jose, as much as 34 inches of rain has fallen over the past 3 weeks. And a one-day total for precipitation in downtown San Francisco, they came awfully close to reaching #1 status in record-keeping history, which goes all the way back to 1849. 5.46 inches of rain fell in one day. Again, that's #2 on the all-time list for downtown San Francisco. And throughout all of California, there was copious amounts of rain that has fallen. This is just over the past 7 days. Looking at the seasonal amounts, they're now at over 200% of normal amounts of precipitation in some areas. And in even areas that you imagine that are very dry, like Death Valley, over 200% of normal precipitation for the season. Even down in sunny San Diego, almost 200% of seasonal amounts of precipitation. So a lot of rain has fallen on California, to say the least, over the past several weeks. And in the mountains, as all that moisture is cooled and forms all that snow in the Sierra Nevada, we get a time lapse like this in Yosemite National Park, where 10 to 20 feet of snow has fallen between December 26th and January 15th. Also, in Mammoth Mountain, a ski resort there, over almost 400 inches of snow for the seasonal amount. So that's obviously done some great things for the drought there. Between December 8th and January 12th, you can see the drastic improvements to the drought monitor there. So what is an atmospheric river? All those warm temperatures over the Pacific Ocean allow that ocean water to evaporate, rises into the atmosphere. Strong winds carry and funnel this water vapor. That water vapor in the atmosphere is then condensed. It cools as it's risen into the upper levels of the atmosphere with orographic lifting, meaning that we have the land that all that water vapor is being funneled into. As it rises, it's forced to rise with the mountains. It's wrung out of the atmosphere and produces all that rain and mountain snow. So it's that flowing column of condensed water vapor responsible for all of this flooding and the intense mountain snow. We talked about these plumes of moisture coming from the Pacific Ocean. Half of the West Coast's moisture comes from atmospheric rivers. They cross an area with very few observation sites, so it's challenging to forecast. The hurricane hunters have actually recently been deployed to help study these atmospheric rivers, try to predict better forecasts using these dropsondes. They're sent down out of the plane and they're helped to give our atmospheric our forecast models better information. It's also put on a 5-point scale, similar to hurricanes, where we can assess how strong an atmospheric river event is going to be that's going to impact the West Coast. And between 1 and 5, we can see how strong the atmospheric river is going to be based on its duration and its maximum intensity. Now, it's not just in California that sees this, the West Coast of the United States. You can also see this on the eastern part of the Atlantic Ocean. Spain and Western Europe can sometimes see these atmospheric river events because, again, we're going across a large body of water. So a few kind of examples of how this evolves. So you start with heavy rain over the western Pacific with a blocking area of high pressure well to the north. As that plume of moisture traverses the entire Pacific Ocean, it just picks up more and more moisture, all of that bringing it to the west coast of the United States. It's dubbed the Pineapple Express by some people because of all that warm and moist water vapor being picked up near Hawaii, and Hawaii is the nation's #1 producer of pineapples.
Yeah.
So fun couple of weather terms there for you guys, and an explanation of why California has gotten so much rain over the past couple of weeks.
Okay, good stuff.
Good thing for California with the drought. A lot of that rain goes back in the Pacific. What about the Colorado River Basin? Lake Mead, Lake Powell, not so favorable. Some moisture, but that would be great if you can see more in Colorado River. But the mountains in Colorado are getting a lot of snow too,
True.
so that's good.
All
Thanks,
right,
Jacob.
thanks, Jacob.